At Kulusuk airport, early morning there was mist, and it was obvious to me that the sun would heat it up and eventually the mist would rise towards about 9 o'clock. You can see behind me the mist is still lying around. There's good old Magnus after being checked and ready to rock and roll. And I forgot to say, but there is no internet on Kulusuk, so I depended on phone calls to Dragos, my friend back in Romania, to tell me about the weather. I had no way of knowing the weather in real time, and there was no computers working that day. However, I was determined that the weather will be better and we will go. The flight was to take us from Kulusuk airport all the way down to Narsarsauq, which is inside a fjord. Basically, Greenland is about the size of a continent, and it was supposed to be a flight of about 6 hours 45. According to my phone call with Dragos, I knew that the weather would be good for about 4.5 hours, and then the last 2 hours would be very challenging. Over here you can see that the weather cleared and I was getting ready to go, put on my immersion suit, checked all the systems, and also checked the cameras inside the plane, especially the Insta360, which was mounted on the top of the canopy. I started Magnus up, taxied to the end of the runway. As you can see, it's a dirt runway and it's an uphill go. Full power, and Magnus pushed forward like a Ford Mustang Shelby. Full power, and there I was going for takeoff. Look how fast that baby can climb. And the great thing is, this is August. Middle of August, there's still snow lying around in Kulusuk. Look at that view, and slowly Kulusuk is being left behind me. And I'm turning south towards Narsarsauq to fly all the way down the eastern coastline of Greenland. This was going to be an amazing flight. First 4.5 hours, I knew I had good weather. The last 2 hours, I knew were going to be challenging. But meanwhile, I was enjoying the amazing view that this beautiful, huge island was giving Magnus and me. Look at those icebergs lying around and the snow spread all over Kulusuk. As I turned south, I was climbing up to about 5,000 feet so that I could have a good view of what's going on, and I knew that the winds were with me at this altitude. This is the coastline of Greenland. It just looks surreal, totally unreal. And of course, I got out the 360 camera on stick, pushed it out of the cabin, and took some video shots of me flying alongside the eastern coastline of Greenland. And here I am inside the cockpit, enjoying the great flight. I knew I had 4.5 hours of a really chilled out flight and a very challenging 2 hours left at the end. Towards the southern part of Greenland, which as I said is the size of a continent, there was low cloud cover, which was about 800 feet over the water. So I flew over the clouds and I was getting ready to plan my descent to go into Narsarsauq. Here you can see is how the flight actually turned out. And as I flew over the clouds, I was sure that I would find a crack to go through and slip under the clouds to go inside the fjord, which was leading all the way to Narsarsauq airport. The cloud cover here, as I said, is about 800 feet high over the water. I really did not like depending on the altimeter at such low altitudes, so I was looking at the water, which of course there was no wind, so I couldn't tell the depth. And I was lucky enough to have these tiny islands spread all over the place that would give me the depth so that I could know my altitude over the water. And here I am slipping under the clouds together with Magnus, looking for that entrance to go inside the fjord. With me, of course, I had my Sky Demon app, which was really helping me, and I was surprised that it was working so well in these conditions. I'm flying here at about 200 feet, 200 to 300 feet over the water, using the icebergs and the little islands to know my altitude. And this is the entrance to the fjord. You can see on the right, it's really difficult to see, but there's an NDB station, a non-directional beacon that I'm passing on my right. And this is the Magnus and me flying inside the fjord. The cloud cover is 800 feet, and we gotta be between the clouds and between the water. At some points there are cables that go across the fjord, so I had to really be careful. The thing about flying in the fjord, it's about a 40-minute flight at this altitude all the way into the final landing at Narsarsauq Airport. You can see here that the fjord splits into two in two places, and it's really important to take the right turn, otherwise it's a dead end. Over here you can see I have to go to the right, and on the left that is a dead end. So I had to be really careful. This is me flying. It looks really surreal inside the cockpit. I was using, of course, the Sky Demon to help me out here with the navigation, and surprisingly, it was so accurate. I mean, from each wingtip, there's about 100 to 150 meters between the wingtip and the little hills or rocks, depending how you want to call them. Here it is, I'm approaching Narsarsauq, and only at this stage did I have radio control with Narsarsauq Airport. As I turned the bend to come into the bay that leads into the airport, you can see the airport here on my right, and now I'm turning in, and only about 2 minutes before I had radio contact with Narsarsauq. I was coming in here very low, the cloud cover was low. However, over Narsarsauq, the cloud cover was pretty high, about 1,300 feet. And this is me turning final together with Magnus. This is how it looks from the cockpit. There was a tiny crosswind from the right, and to be honest, I was a bit slack on this landing. I was very tired, but the landing was okay. And this is me coming into the runway from the canopy camera angle, 360. Quality, of course, is much better, as you can see. And that's Narsarsauq Airport. Gosh, was I happy to be here after 6 hours and 45 of flying. And slowly touching down with Magnus onto the runway. It is an amazing feeling, I can tell you, after landing after such a long and challenging flight. As I touched down with Magnus on the runway at Narsarsauq Airport, there was a feeling of relief, but I was super happy about the experience I was lucky enough to go through. And this is the Magnus and me taxiing onto the apron at Narsarsauq Airport. The great thing about this airport, there was a fuel truck waiting for me without me even ordering. I mean, these guys are total pros. They know that the pilots that land here want to refuel and continue flying. However, in my case, I could not continue because the weather was closing in and I'd have to wait until the next day. Though at the time, I didn't know I was going to wait much longer than 2 days. Words cannot describe how I felt during this flight. It was simply breathtaking. And before I even got out of the plane, the guy started to refuel Magnus. Hey, what's up, Mike?
Much. Nice plane. Is that at Magnus?
Yeah, Magnus from Hungary.
Tried you for a Cirrus.
You want to give me the Cirrus for the Magnus?
Yeah.
Nah, I'll stay with my Magnus.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. It's a nice plane, huh?
It is.
Narsarsauq Airport is built for pilots. You can see this is the pilot debriefing center with maps and weather and everything. And there's a great lady here called Ingrid, who's very helpful for the pilots. A lot of ferry pilots stop here on their way across the Atlantic. This is the Tower of Narsarsauq. Heaven on earth. Hi guys.
Hey. Hi.
Look how happy they are in Greenland. So as usual, I decided to walk to the hotel because I wanted to stretch my legs. But look at this beautiful place, Narsarsauq. I'll be seeing you at part 7, Narsarsauq to Goose Bay, Canada. Bye for now.